So Helmut Marko is leaving Formula One, which is sad news, isn't it? Just kidding, the general reactions looked a little something like this. Credit where credit's due, this man's the reason why nearly half the grid are in the sport right now. I mean, he's also the reason why they're all driving for completely different teams, but we'll get to that later. Alex Dunne, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson, Arvid Lindblad, Isaac Hadjar, Max Verstappen, Yuki Tsunoda. Sorry, I said current grid, didn't I? True to his time in Formula One, the Cyclops here couldn't just leave without a barrel of controversy in his wake, and trust me, this one gets absolutely wild, but I've heard hanging onto the subscribe button rather helps in that case. Let's start with a bit of history though. When sidelined from Formula One by a career-ending injury in 1972, Marko redirected his efforts to children. Guess that was just the in thing back then. On a serious note, this eventually led to RSM Marko, or Ren Sports Marko, sure, being founded in 1990, helping names such as Karl Wendinger and Gerhard Berger break into Formula One, names you might have heard of back then. Unless you're a DTS fan, in which case those names will have meant nothing to you. I mean, there's Jos Verstappen, you'll at least have wanked over his son. Marko's contributions made him the ideal candidate when Diedrich Mateschitz decided his energy drinks company needed a talent pool to drown people in. Thus, the Red Bull Junior team was founded in 1999, Marko the director and in charge of the drivers in its ranks, some of which might just surprise you. Some of the early names included King Cucumber himself, Narain Karthikeyan, Skypad engineer Karun Chandok, Mika Maki, who's only here because I found his name funny, and Oliver Oakes, famous for running Alpine, then running away when his brother was done for transferring criminal property. Marko would then go on to become a senior advisor of the newly founded Red Bull Racing outfit when it bought Jaguar out for a single £1 at the start of 2005. It didn't take long before his junior team began to strike its first vein of gold. Sebastian Vettel would join Formula One midway through 2007, stacking his first win for Toro Rosso 1 year later, and going on to take 4 straight titles with the main outfit between 2010 and 2013. And he wasn't alone. The likes of Daniel Ricciardo and of course Max Verstappen proceeding to follow suit and build up their own sizable list of accomplishments. At points, the academy was so successful, even 2 full teams weren't enough. The likes of Carlos Sainz and Jean-Eric Vergne only ever getting as far as whatever their junior outfit was called that week, and names like Antonio Felix da Costa, Pato O'Ward and Callum Ilott among many of those never getting as far as Formula One, but going on to achieve success in other forms of motorsport. For every success though, there were those that didn't make the cut, or cut themselves out for more nefarious reasons. Dan Tickton was lining himself up for a Formula One drive, only then to line himself up with Ricky Collard under the safety car, and having just overtaken half the field specifically to take him out. The fact he was even allowed in the programme after that sparked its fair bit of controversy, leading to a more swift response when Yuri Vip showed off his new favourite racial slur on a live stream in 2022. The majority of other drivers just simply couldn't cut the mustard, or weren't given enough time to develop. This was a sink or swim culture, but one that proved to work. Unlike other academies, take Renault for example, they'd give you as much time as you wanted, just not the seat at the end of it. Many would criticise Marko's methods, but in fairness, they often worked. Well, that was until Ricciardo left the Red Bull team at the end of 2018, and Pierre Gasly was parachuted in as his replacement. Relative to what we've seen, well, nowadays, Gasly's performances in the first half of that year don't look all that bad, but the Frenchman only got those 12 races before being unceremoniously f***ed in favour of then even more inexperienced Alex Albon. It's worth noting the team could have gone for ex-Red Bull driver Daniel Kvyat at this stage, fresh off his podium for Toro Rosso at that year's German Grand Prix. Problem was, Helmut had played with that toy before, and presumably had heard some rather wonderful things about the people of Thailand.
It was raining, I think, once. He called me, maybe against 7 a.m., had the test, and I was maybe 3 or 4 seconds off in my first wet test in from a BMW at the time, and he just was, so you're quite useless on the wet, and just hang up on me.
Albon lasted just a season and a half before getting the boot himself, his replacement Sergio Perez surviving a bit longer, but eventually dropping off even more spectacularly. And then we get to 2025, where the mess rather speaks for itself. All these knee-jerk reactions weren't particularly welcome from the F1 fandom, Marko doing his best to distract these stories with new ones, usually generated by every time he opened his mouth. In 2023, Marko told an Austrian broadcaster that Sergio Perez's inconsistent form could be explained by his, quote, cultural heritage, implying that this made him less focused than others. Don't worry, it doesn't end there. He took the opportunity to piss all over Lando Norris's mental health in the back end of 2024, consoled a crying Hadjar in Australia by calling him embarrassing, and then of course had his most recent controversy, He's alleging that Kimi Antonelli's wide moment at the end of the 2025 Qatar Grand Prix was deliberate, leading to a tirade of online abuse directed towards the 18-year-old Italian, and the theory that Marko's 1972 life-threatening accident claimed both his eyes, and potentially his brain as well. Now, it's widely accepted that to get to Formula One, you've got to be a bit of a dick. But when a whole paddock full of dicks think you're a particularly throbbing one, that's not a great sign, is it? That leads us nicely into his retirement/dismissal/firing, depending on whether the statement you read had made it through Red Bull's HR department or not. And as I explained at the top of this video, this carries some controversy too. You may well recall this man, Irishman and soon to be Briton as soon as he does well enough, Alex Dunne, previously a member of the McLaren Junior Academy, and one who caused quite a stir after a rather impressive first outing with the team during FP1 at the, well, ironically, Austrian Grand Prix. Speaking of FP1, how is that subscribe button looking? The problem with McLaren was always going to be its drivers. Both Piastri and Norris are locked in for the future, the team already having to let talent like Gabriel Bortoleto escape to explore other options of getting onto the grid. That said, it took us all rather by surprise when Dunne and McLaren suddenly announced their divorce halfway through this year. It was expected that the Irishman had just put pen to paper with Red Bull, but then that announcement never really came, and we just sort of forgot about it after that. Well, now we think we know the true story, and lo and behold, it involves Specsavers here. Because of course it does. Allegedly, Marko decided to pursue and later sign the young Irishman. Problem was, he didn't tell anyone else he was going to do that, and that rather pissed off Red Bull, who'd already decided they were done with Dunne. Sorry, that was too easy. Upon hearing Marko had taken their advice and proceeded to ignore it, Red Bull weren't particularly happy, especially as, according to the same article, Marko had signed Arvid Lindblad to Racing Bulls as early as the summer without telling anybody either. This was too far for upper management, however, and Marko was forced to terminate the deal with immediate effect, Dunne at least getting compensated rather handsomely in the process, but leaving him to complete the 2025 season with no team backing whatsoever. With the 20-year-old now essentially damaged goods, it remains to be seen if he can find himself a spot in another junior academy, and really what's left. Ferrari seem to have forgotten about theirs, Williams are great if you want to get to F1 Academy, and then there's Alpine, who are, well, French. He at least has his future secured with Rodin in Formula 2 in 2026, but Cyclops' brain failure here may just have ruined the driver's entire future. And with that mixed with his comments as of late, perhaps Red Bull have grown tired of waiting for the Austrian to die and have just pulled the plug instead. At the end of the day, Christian Horner's firing midway through the season was meant to steady the already sinking ship at Red Bull, yet instead, Marko has taken that opportunity, used it to try and seize complete power as was widely expected since that infamous Google Drive appeared in everyone's inbox, only now has found that he wasn't quite as in control as he thought he was. It begs the obvious question, where does this leave the team in 2026? And in particular, Max Verstappen. The Dutchman has always been widely supportive of Helmut, even going as far as to threaten to pull a temper tantrum and walk away if he was sacked not too long ago. With the team not expected to have a competitive engine next season either, and spots opening up at other destinations on the grid, could this well just be another factor in the four-time champions' mid-term Formula One future? There's also now a huge role to fill at the very top of Red Bull, and look, I'll throw my prediction in straight away. I want Sebastian Vettel in that position. Let's see what he can bring to the table and develop in the next generation of talent. Let me know who you want to see down in the comments below. While you're at it, there's that like and subscribe button getting rather cold down there. And if you want to go the extra mile and get these videos early, plus some exclusive content too, become a member and patron using the links down below. Finally, if you want some money off some Castor merch, like the one I'm wearing in this video, well, you can use the other link down below and the code on screen to get 15% off. I, meanwhile, will be back with something else later in the week. Until then, have a good one.